what animal they want as their first reptile, and it's so much fun to see them get that animal and the joy and expression on their face, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful sight.
Welcome, adventurers! Today I speak with Eric from D&D Crestys. This adventure includes how dad and daughter Crestys got its start and where it is headed. He also designs the perfect reptile show from his perspective as a vendor and a reptile enthusiast. Buckle up, this adventure starts now. To the music! All right. I have Eric here from D&D Crestys. Why don't you introduce yourself to the adventurers?
Hi, my name's Eric. I'm one of the parts of D&D Cresties. D&D Cresties stands for Dad and Daughter Cresties. My daughter couldn't make it tonight. She had to work. I've been a keeper of reptiles for 32 years. I've had everything from dart frogs to large constrictors, monitors, crested geckos, bearded dragons, birds, cats, dogs,
Hmm?
but mostly my passion reptiles. My daughter, she's an avid, my daughter's an avid ball python enthusiast who is just now starting to breed ball pythons for this year. So we're going to be adding that to our line of crested geckos.
How did you get into breeding?
I was living in a hotel in Ohio. Part of my job, my normal work is hazmat,
Mhm.
and I didn't have any of my reptiles, and it got kind of lonely, 6 months in a hotel by myself. So I went down and said, I've always wanted a crested gecko, so I bought one. And I'm looking at this little crested gecko in this big enclosure, and I said, I'm going to get another one. They ended up being male and female. We started getting eggs. And me and my daughter sat down one day and we're just kind of talking after the first baby hatched. And we were so excited about what we created, even though it was unintentional, that we decided that we wanted to, you know, do something together. And that's what we chose to do. We decided to start breeding crested geckos.
That's a great story. So, what was your first exotic pet that you ever had?
My first exotic was actually a macaw. It was a shamrock macaw. My first reptile was a ball python.
Hmm. Was it a particular morph or just a regular ball python? Or
No, it was just a regular ball python. The only morphs that I can remember back then were albinos.
what are you currently keeping? Obviously, ball pythons. I guess your daughter has those. And crested geckos. Are you keeping anything else?
We have four bearded dragons. My granddaughter has two leopard geckos that's in the reptile room.
Mhm.
I have an Aki's monitor, Colombian rainbow boa. I have 20 breeding pairs of crested geckos and probably about 200 babies right now. And then we have seven ball pythons.
So, how did you get into going to reptile shows?
I've been going to reptile shows since my early 20s. We used to have a little place in the Detroit area called the Gibraltar Trade Center that I went to quite a bit as a teenager and into my early 20s, and they had a reptile show one day, and I went to it and
Mhm.
just fell in love with it.
Mhm.
Seeing everybody and their different animals and just stuff that even you don't see in zoos most of the time.
Mhm.
And I was hooked after my first show.
So, how big a show was it? How many vendors approximately?
Honestly, I don't remember.
Mhm.
Um, I would say it was probably comparable to the mega show in Pittsburgh.
And what was the frequency of the show? Was it monthly, quarterly, or
Be honest with you, I remember it being monthly, but that was 20 years ago.
what are you up to currently? I understand that you're doing the crusties and maybe the balls. Are you about some particular type of more for the crusties, or you're just trying to have a bunch of them, or what's your goal?
So with the crested geckos right now, we're working with Xanthics.
Mm-hmm.
We're working with uh, combinations with the lily white. My
Mm-hmm.
personal favorite project we're doing right now is our lavender lily whites. That's a
Mm-hmm.
tricolor, and they're just awesome little animals. We're dealing with some caps. We're hopefully going to be breeding fraps this year. My daughter's passion is the Dalmatians, so we have a couple Super Dal lines.
Mm-hmm.
We have some red Super Dals,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have a lily white confetti Super Dal line as well.
Wow.
And then we breed Halloween, Super Stripes. A lot of our stuff is empty back.
Okay.
And we got a really Dream Tiger line.
It's a lot of lines. So what's next for you?
I want to focus more on the on keeping with my lilies.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people say that it's a dead morph that it can't go anywhere else, but I really like exploring it, especially with the tricolor lilies. I think they're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm going to stick with my exact, and hopefully we have good luck with the fraps. I'm working on some super Dow fraps. Is kind of where my goal is a kind of a surprise for my daughter because she loves the Dalmatians so
Mm-hmm.
much. And then the ball pythons, we're working with black axanthic that we want to mix with a champagne,
Mm-hmm.
and then GHI mojaves and bamboos.
Wide variety there. So is this your day job, or are you doing something else?
So my day job is I run a industrial cleaning company
Mm-hmm.
that me and my father started back in 2009. I've
Mm-hmm.
been in the industry for 25. We have locations in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, and that's our main focus for financial stability. The reptile breeding is more of just a bonding thing for me and my daughter.
Is there a goal of you replacing your day job with the reptile breeding ever, or is that probably out of the question?
If I got to a financial position where I could do that, obviously I would love to.
Mm-hmm.
But in this market, I don't think that that would be viable anytime in the near future.
Very few people are able to get rid of their day job and continue to do the reptile breeding. I've from all my interviews and what have you, but but it is a goal for many people. So that's great. Speaking of reptile shows, which we talked about earlier, how did you get into vending at the shows?
I talk to people online, different Facebook groups,
Hmm.
um, going to certain shows, getting to know the promoters of the shows. I've been fortunate, and I mean very fortunate, especially this year, to get a permanent table at the Taylor, Michigan Reptile Show, which is technically the show that got me interested in the reptile shows in the first place when it was being done at Gibraltar Trade Center.
Hmm.
We've been currently two local shows. We've done one show at the Schaumburg North American Reptile Breeders Conference.
Hmm.
We've done the mega show in Pittsburgh where we met you at.
Yes, I remember.
And excitingly, we're doing Rexpo this weekend in Rochester, New York.
So where are you located?
So I'm located just outside of Detroit, Michigan.
All right. So how far is the Rexpo from you?
6 hours.
6 hours. How long is the show?
Rexpo is one day.
Hmm.
It's this Saturday, 9 to 4.
Hmm.
They do a VIP, allows people to get in at 8.
Hmm.
And I've never been there. I've looked them up. I've talked to a couple people that have been there, and they say it is basically like one day Tinley.
That's impressive. Were you at Tinley this year?
I did not make Tinley this year. Unfortunately, I missed both shows
Hmm.
due to being out of town for my normal job.
Hmm.
I have been to Tinley, and Tinley is an amazing show. we've also been to the Super Show in Las
Mhm.
Vegas. You know, going to Tinley, doing Schaumburg, doing the Mega Show. That Super Show in Vegas was absolutely unbelievable. I got to meet people that I've admired and have looked up to in the industry for years.
Mhm.
One of which being Brian from Altitude Exotics. I was actually able to pick up a couple of his geckos at
Mhm.
that show. I also got to meet Will and his now wife Audrey from Flawless Crested Geckos,
Mhm.
and they're just amazing people, very helpful, and the atmosphere of that show is intense. It's
Mhm.
just so energy and just so many cool things to see.
Okay. That sounds great. I'll have to get to that one sometime. Speaking of your crested geckos, New Caledonia is not exporting anything at all. How do you keep your bloodlines up, and how do you renew them, or is there enough in the country that you can keep going, or what is the status of that?
Well, if you actually look at crested geckos
Mhm.
and the small amount that was brought over, I think depending on what breeders you're getting them from, there's somewhere down the bloodline these geckos are related. There just wasn't
Mhm.
that many brought over for the amount of geckos that are on the market today. For
Mhm.
us, I like dealing with other breeders. You got so many great breeders, and we got a lot of great local breeders. Kevin with KMS, I've picked up some nice geckos from him. I've got some geckos from Pangea, uh, Altitude Exotics. I've got one of Flawless's crested geckos. So we have a good diversity of
Mhm.
bloodlines and from really great high end breeders in our set.
What is your perfect reptile? If you could have any reptile in the world, what would it be?
Komodo dragon.
Komodo dragon? That's awesome. I would probably do that as well, but I'd probably get eaten. But yes, there's one in Akron. There's a couple in Akron, so at the Akron Zoo. So I enjoy going down there to watch those. But okay, of all the reptiles you can possibly have, because the Komodo dragons are endangered, and what would be your second choice, or what would be the choice that you could actually possess?
A Gila monster would probably be up there, but
Mhm.
with the change in laws in that, a black monitor maybe.
Are those allowed in Michigan?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Every state is different. It seems crazy why they choose different things. But what is the favorite reptile that you've ever had?
my favorite reptile that I've ever had would have to be Baby. She was my female Doomeral's boa.
Hmm.
Uh, just an amazing snake, amazing temperament, just as loving and sweet as a snake could possibly be.
How long ago did you have that one?
I had Baby for 7 years, and I got rid of her I gave her to a breeder, I think 6 years ago. And that I do miss that snake.
What made you decide to give her to a breeder?
I got uh, bit by her.
Oh, okay.
I went to take a photograph of her to send to somebody, and I had an iPhone at the time that decided it wanted to overheat,
Hmm.
and she went for the phone, ended up getting me, and then ended up under my couch, coiled in the couch. It was very traumatic for both me and her.
I'm sure.
And she was back to her calm, normal self, but I was gun shy. So I wasn't able to give her the attention that she deserved or that she's always had. So I talked to a friend of mine that worked at a local pet shop in Garden City, Michigan, and said, "Hey, as much as it breaks my heart, I need to let her go somewhere where she's going to be loved." And they always wanted to breed Doomerals, so it, she's got a good, loving home. I see the owners all the time. We talk about her all the time. So I know she's good, happy, and healthy.
It's a sad story. These creatures, they see heat and they feel it's a something to eat and they go after it.
The strike itself wasn't a food
Mhm.
strike because I feed frozen cod. The strike was a defensive strike. She took it as a threat.
If you could design the perfect reptile show, what would it be?
The perfect reptile show would probably be Tinley mixed with the Mega Show.
How would you do that?
Um, I would find a state that allows all the cool animals that they had in the Mega Show in Pennsylvania, and get a venue that could house it and just promote.
So you're saying that the Tinley size and variety and excitement with the mega show, which is a hot show, so you're able to combine that kind of situation with that. Is that that's the difference that you're saying?
Yes,
Wow, that would be quite a show.
and it was incredible seeing and meeting all the different breeders that breed those animals, and just getting to talk to them and learn more about the animals. I mean, I learned more about them animals than you do talking to the zookeepers, just from talking to the breeders. That would definitely be the ultimate.
When would it begin? How many days would it last? Would it have a overnight, or would there be any education or anything like that?
Well, I think it should be a 3 day show. I think you should have a day for vendors to come in, set up, as well as having an educational portion of the show for any potential buyers or breeders or just enthusiasts or people that are just curious to be able to come there and learn about different species of reptiles.
And that would be day one.
Yeah, I would say like a Friday, set up,
Hmm.
have a nice symposium, maybe a couple different tables for people to be able to talk about stuff from New Caledonia, you know, Africa, the different hot stuff,
Hmm.
and then there's the different animals that are very popular in our industry and hobby. I feel a lot of my time at these shows and vending these shows is more educating people on what I breed than it is selling anything, or, other than talking to other breeders about it.
Do you end up selling to those people later, or
I've had instances where people have come back and said, very helpful. You were very informative. We appreciated that. We want to buy from you.
that's great.
And I'll tell anybody that comes to my table, and I ask them questions. Have they done their research? Do they have a proper enclosure? And I tell them, they go, well, they ask, the biggest question I get is, which gecko should I buy? And I tell them it's the one that screams out to you that that's the gecko for you. The one that you see and you can't live without. That's what you should buy, whether it's from me or one of the other great breeders that are at them shows.
That's a great way to think about it. What else would you do with the show? Would you do anything Friday night or Saturday night?
I would have to do a fundraiser for USARC. I think that's important, to help raise money for USARC and USARC Florida,
Hmm.
because those are the ones that are fighting for our rights to be able to keep the animals that we love.
Hmm.
So I think having a good fund for them is very important. And I think having the proper security, making sure that, people aren't walking off with stolen animals, is important as well. It's one of the things I loved about the Mega Show, where they had security at the doors checking to make sure people had paid stickers on the items they bought. And then I think there should be a luncheon or a dinner on that Sunday for any vendors that want to just be able to sit down, relax with each other, and just talk and enjoy each other. Because once you get into them shows and you're done setting up and the doors open, you don't really have that much time to socialize and get to know your fellow breeders. So I think that's another thing that could be very important, that could help bring more people closer together in the industry.
Something maybe like a brunch or breakfast on Sunday morning when they if you start later in the day. would probably work, huh?
Absolutely would. You eat with each other, talk with each other, you're going to get to know each other. And I mean, honestly, you're going to probably do more business with each other.
I'm sure. So you've created quite the reptile show here. I would love to go to it, and I promise I'd be there. But depending on how far away it is, how often. But so how often would it be?
I would think a show like that should be once to twice a year.
Hmm.
That way you can enable more vendors to try to get there. And it would be only vendors that sell reptiles or that are part of the hobby.
Hmm.
Not to put down anybody in what they do, but having people selling knives or whatever to me takes away from that. Could have been three more reptile vendors
Hmm.
or a person that breeds rats or roaches or some kind of dietary supplement for our animals that can't get in. I think if it's strictly held to reptile breeders and the manufacturers of equipment and food for your reptiles is the way it needs to be.
So what's next for D&D Crestys?
So next on our list is, like I said, we're going to start breeding the ball
Hmm.
pythons, and we're going to change over from D&D Cretys to D&D Crestys and Exotics. I'm working on getting a pair of leech geckos.
Wow, those are awesome. Hmm.
Uh, I've always wanted one, and I got the opportunity to get a male and female for a decent price. So just trying to convince my wife to let me do it.
Hmm. That sometimes can be difficult.
Well, I know I really enjoyed meeting you at the Mega Show. I enjoyed talking to you there.
Yes, I as well.
Then that's the other thing I love about doing the shows is the people I get to meet. We get to meet a lot of them, and it's a lot of fun getting to meet new people, and especially people that are curious about the hobby or they're serious about what animal they want as their first reptile, and it's so much fun to see them get that animal and the joy and expression on their face, and it's just a beautiful sight.
That's one of the themes of this podcast is the people that we meet along the way that I meet or that meet the vendors and what have you. So it's great to hear that. So that's incredible. So is there anything else that you want to share with our adventures?
Just keep looking forward with the hobby. Don't get discouraged with the way the market is. Support US art to the best of your ability. Kids like my granddaughter that's just getting into it, she wants to build own the stuff that we own
Hmm.
25, 30 years from now.
Yep. And the only way we'll do that is if we protect the hobby now.
Yes, and that's very, very important to protect the hobby that we all love.
Mhm. Well, I thank you for your time. I know we rescheduled and unscheduled this a bunch of times, but I really appreciate the time. I thank you for it, and we'll see you sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Please join our Facebook group, Reptile Show Reporter, pictured here. Thanks.